right, hey everyone. Oh, we're back again. We're having our first talk of the day, and that will be Gregory Cuesta and Andre Persson from Mighty Diamonds. Give a round of applause, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you for joining, both here in front of the stage, but also online. We know that there are many people that are watching us. A bit of pressure, Andre?
No, I think we're going to make this work.
Yes. So today we're going to talk about a very important topic, which is discoverability. We know that it's a very critical thread right now because there are a lot of games coming on Steam and all digital platforms. So you have to compete against not only the big companies, but also against a lot of indies, etc. So it requires extra attention on discoverability. So for us today, the goal is to convey, first of all, make sure that you better understand how to increase your chance to succeed on the market, obviously. Simply also build your business case, because it depends on strategic planning, having a strategic approach. It's not like coming randomly. And of course, how to leverage marketing with actual and functional and practical examples. But before going too deep in that, maybe Andre, can you introduce us, talk about what we've done in the past and who we are a little bit?
Why we have the right to stand here? No, so we've been in the industry for quite some time. We've been working at big companies, small companies, everything from Souls games to Battlefield and whatnot. It's a lot of stuff in between. Also some great local stuff like Little Nightmares with Tarsier and a lot of other cool stuff along the way. At studios, at publishers, building studios, building publishers.
Yeah.
And releasing a shit ton of games.
Yeah, we were about 200.
Hundreds of them, yeah.
250 titles.
Yeah, that's what we counted.
More or less. But working from indie games up to AAA, and in between we also have done a couple of games. So it's not just about like the big standards. It's also about how to address also the indie markets and the indie games.
Yeah. And it's also about making sure that the learnings from that, because there have been great success stories, but a lot of big failures as well. And all of that translates to key learnings. So this is why we're here today, to share some of that with you as well.
Yeah. So first off, when you develop a game, when you're about to publish a game, no matter if you're a studio or publisher, you have your backlog of quests, which starts with like the birth of a good idea. I mean, obviously you need to find the right concept. And this discoverability starts from this actually. It's the very beginning of the discoverability comes with giving the birth of a good idea and a good concept. Then it's about pitching it and getting financing. So we know that it's going to be a quest, a task and a mission that is even more complicated, or as complicated as the concept. Then you have to plan for a sustainable business, which means that it's not just a one-shot thing. It's about building your career and building a successful business together with people, developers, and various people across your organization, no matter the size. And obviously, ultimate goal is to break through, making sure that you can surface and not being in it's an overcrowded market right now. So you need to figure out the right approach to distinguish yourself and make sure you are unique to a certain degree. So that's what we're going to talk about today and cover. That's basically your quests. I tend to say that the studio for me is like, there are different analogies, but I like this one with the studio is like a symphony. You need basically a composer. You also need an orchestra, obviously. You also need a conductor. That's the most obvious. But you also need to understand if there is an audience to actually listen to your music and come to your theater. That's also an important part, because if you create something that speaks to no one, then you're going to struggle. At the end of the day, might not worth the try. So understanding is very important. Then you need promotion. If you run a concert, etc., you need to promote it. Otherwise, nobody will show up. and also a variety of expertise across the board.
And I think also one thing that is interesting with this is that even if you are a person who will make your own game, or maybe you're 5 people making your game, you still need to fill a lot of these positions anyway. The positions kind of are still there. You just need to make sure that you cover more by wearing more hats.
But then, what's the purpose of marketing? Is it just sell your game? Is it about creating trailers? About doing PR? Is it just content creator or advertisements? So let's go into this. So, Andre.
When we think about making a game, you guys will recognize this quite well. The development journey of pre-production, vertical slice, alpha, feature locking, beta, launching, and then hopefully post-launching as well, which a lot of people tend to forget. When we talk about marketing and we talk about how to better work on products and work with titles, the point is to get in as early as possible. With all these points, I can actually click around here. Yeah. Thank you.
Is it with the top?
Yes, sir. With all these points, that won't be working at the moment.
The other one.
Which one?
I'll do it. Don't worry.
Just click it through.
Yeah. First steps. I mean, the early stages, if you want to talk about that.
The point here is that marketing is an important factor in development. It's not something that should be coming late in stages. It's not something to just sell the game. These days, you absolutely have to get marketing in as early as you possibly can. The optimal stage to save most money and time throughout the whole project is really still in the very, very beginning of it all. Because here you can also start doing research. You can also start understanding the player promise. You develop your core loops. You develop your key pillars for your game. That's all marketing as well. It's all connected these days. And you really need to think about it that way and get people in that understands it or can even contribute to it.
And one positive aspect of that is also sometimes during a development, there are some back and forth and change of scope, etc. That often comes from not well educated decisions sometimes early enough. If you have the right, you can take the right decision with the right info, then you remove a lot of back and forth and risk on the scope.
Now, point is also that when you've reached, when you've done your market research, which can be, you don't have to always pay for that. You can start off by yourself and compare your project to the nearest competitor or understand how to improve a nearest competitor and just make sure that you do that kind of research in the beginning to understand your audience. Then moving forward to the time frame of alpha and feature locking, because this is really the point of no return. So if you have a publisher that you're signing with and they come and like, oh yeah, we want all these features in, then you guys know that the rest of this is just going to be incredibly hard to achieve in terms of time and budget and over-scoping and all that stuff. So the scoping and all that important stuff really needs to happen here early on. And then you lock that scope, regardless if you're self-publishing, if you're going with a publisher, or even when you're talking to investors as well. It's really to showcase that we intend to do this. Here's our research that backs up what we're intending to do. And we're locking here, and that's the point of no return, and then we move forward. Then you design a final go-to-market plan, and then you go for live marketing and player relations, and then you're really live in these green stages here. Sometimes you're live already at alpha stage. But it's really, if you can see here, it's really understanding that marketing should really be in your mindset already in the beginning. As soon as your idea is being formed, as soon as your core loops are being done, think about marketing, think about the player and how you will address that player, how the player journey will look like from onboarding, which is another topic we will talk about as well, to retention, to really replaying your game.
And having the support of a marketer or an external person will also help you to have an honest look at the market, because when you're a developer, obviously, even if you do your own research, you will be biased. You have your own opinion, your own beliefs about your game, what it should be, how it should play, etc. So the problem tends to be like you struggle to actually make a very, very clean assessment. So that's why sometimes having someone to help you just for a few weeks or a few days can be enough to identify also the weaknesses, the strengths, etc. Moving on to so it goes with the market research. Let's deep dive a little bit on those stages. Basically, with market research, you need to find out what's your value proposition, identify your USPs. What's your uniqueness? Uniqueness is not just only finding a brand new concept. Sometimes it's about finding a brand new or a very cool and unique gameplay. Sometimes, like I like to give this example of Helldivers because actually, when you look at the game, it's not that new, but it's super unique in terms of gameplay loop, in terms of fun, etc. And the uniqueness can be that as well. But you need to find out your uniqueness. If you're not doing your homework on that, we'll see later, but you can be in trouble. So then you figure out, are you heading to a blue ocean or red ocean? And we'll explain what it means. So the uniqueness and the innovation is basically very important for discoverability because you can have a decent game, spend as much money as you want, but if your game is not so unique, is another addition on a genre, etc., then you will take only a share of the pie, but not create your own landscape. So for this, you need to make sure that from the early stages, as Andre mentioned, you can figure out like the need, the uniqueness, and we can work on that with workshops and different tools. Understand the business, how the landscape looks like. Is it like, is it overcrowded genre? Is it like, is there any opportunities to exploit or use or leverage? And what are your chances of success actually? Because by doing this research, you can also predict more or less what you can achieve realistically and how much actually you need. It's like when you're figuring out your production roadmap, you make assessments on how much time it would take, etc., etc. Here it's the same for marketing. So you can understand that if I spend X, I know that I can reach this level, etc. So there are a lot of rationale, and that's by having this rationale, this market study, you can figure out and having take informed decisions. That's the goal. The red ocean is like, are your game too similar to competitors? Is your value proposition quite weak? Or are you like in an overcrowded genre? That's something sometimes it's not easy. It can be hard to like realize that your game is maybe not innovative enough. So, but it's not never late to rework and improve and find the right framework for this. Dream goal is obviously to go to the. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's what I mentioned before, like not having biased feelings or opinions. That's why having someone a bit external to the project can be super helpful in that regards, to have an honest assessment. But the ideal path to follow is going to the blue ocean, and for that you need a unique game, a solid value proposition, and going maybe in an underserved genre, for instance. So that should be the thinking. Am I heading towards traffic jams, or am I going through a fine road? So you'd have to test your game idea as well. I mean, we can talk about a specific example, by the way, which is one of the methods we can use that comes from marketing innovation, is the Kano model. It's a good way to work together, not doing somebody that does it for you, but participate and be part of this exercise. I mean, just an explanation, the Kano model comes from the Dr. Kano in the 80s, which has built this methodology to identify and understand the customer preferences and also help to prioritize the features of any product or any service or any games. That's also work for video games. And that helps you to categorize the features based on the impact on the customer satisfaction. So that's sometimes you believe that, oh, this feature is cool because I like it. No, actually, will the player like it? What's the impact on the players? And you can work on those. So to be more specific, the different categories in the Kano model are, you can have your full list of features and content about your game and figure out which one are going into feeding the basic needs, which are fundamentals. If people don't have this, they will be disappointed anyway, even though they are not necessarily like super innovative, but you have to have them. The performance needs, which like features that have a very different direct impacts and on the customer satisfaction. Like that's a good game. It looks really good. Quality is very important. But then you have these excitement needs, and if what we call the delighters, if you don't have enough delighters, then it means that your game is not innovative enough. You're lacking this kind of hook for the audience to get interested into your game. And by doing like very simple workshops, we can figure out together with the team, going through different questions and this methodology, we can figure out together without going through massive panels. But it's not like a magic recipe. There are other methods, research that have to be done anyway, but that's complementary to also, for instance, in terms of development, so there are different needs, people that don't care. If it's there, they're happy. If it's not there, that doesn't make a big difference. You also have the reverse needs, like sometimes some features, or if they are missing or in the game, people are super disappointed, like very, so you have to understand like the reverse needs. To give you an example, for instance, with an RPG game, basic needs must be like you obviously need a thrilling narrative to have a good adventure. That's basic. The performance needs can be just, for instance, the great visuals. Like if it's great narrative with great visuals, wow, ticking the box. That's fine. But if you want to have a differentiator and hook the people, it could be potentially like a new combat system or something else. Something that has never been seen before or executed in that way. Indifferent needs can be like, okay, there are a variety of NPC speeches. Oh yeah, that's fine, but I don't really care. That's good to know. And for instance, reverse needs could be like limited or no skill progression for the character. So even if you go through a very interesting combat, etc., a good narrative, but if there is no progression system, yeah, I don't want to play this game. So you see what I mean? So by going through this lens, you can figure out on all your features how you can perform, and by crossing different questionnaires, we can really find out and identify non-biased findings. That's pretty helpful. So maybe to complete on that, it's really helping you to prioritize your features, also allocate your resources in terms of people and production, especially production-wise, but also finding out, okay, do I need marketing as well at some points? Integrate that aspect. It can give you this competitive advantage, because if you figure out your uniqueness, again, it will help you in terms of discoverability. It's a way to be customer-centric. Often, we tend to produce a game that we like, a genre that we like, that we understand, have done maybe for many years, but are you doing the game for yourself or for the players? If you do it and design it for the players, then you can find the right limits. And I think this customer-centric approach is very important to be successful in discoverability. And can potentially be part of the future trends. You can create a new genre, a new venue that nobody explored, and then you can stand out. That's the goal, I guess. So to wrap up the thing, Andre?
Yeah, so I think it is important as we go through this as well to understand that it doesn't mean that your entire game has to be 100% unique and original. It's just understanding what you bring to the table that you can talk about that will differentiate you from a potential other game that is similar. And it is very important to compare to other games that are similar to understand really what you can talk about in your 4-second rule span, because that's kind of what you have today. In any kind of channel, you have 4 seconds to more or less explain what your game is about, to a degree that people will not scroll you away. So having that mindset and understand that you have to go for the absolute most powerful point, unique selling point, if you will, to really hook people. And that's what Kano model helps with as well.
So the marketing plan is like basically your discoverability strategy. We call it in marketing the go-to-market plan, basically, where you can, we have your all research, all the rationale on the numbers that will inform your decisions, not only for development, but then also rational decisions for marketing. Your game concept has been tested, and you maybe want to...
Yeah, exactly. I mean, at this point, you should have some understanding of that you're heading in the right direction when you're creating this plan. And again, this plan doesn't have to wait to be created until, beta or whatever. You can start working on it pretty early on, and as soon as you've understood what type of game you want to make. But the point is, when you create plans like this and create timelines like this, it's also to understand, if you work backwards of, where you need to release the game, hopefully, or when your money runs out in your company, which means releasing the game at the latest. Working backwards from that to understand where things need to happen, where you want to connect players, where certification, all this kind of stuff that really needs to happen, QA. Working backwards with that mindset, with that timeline, is easier than to start from the beginning and kind of figure out later on where things need to be. Working backwards, really good stuff to create a good marketing plan. Then it's also understanding what the strategy is and what the execution is. And the difference here is defining the strategy for, this is what we want to achieve as a company, this is what we want to achieve with our product, and then understanding how are we going to do that live, how are we going to do that with players. Those are two things that you also need to kind of design and define properly when you make a go-to-market plan. And we often see a lot of people, they create this strategy and they put fancy words in and do stuff like that. But then when it comes to execution, it's kind of like, well, we'll do some social postings and maybe we'll get some help from Epic Games Store or whatever. But that's not really a true plan. A true plan is really understanding week 1, what are we doing? Week 2, week 3, week 4. When do we potentially hot patch if we need to? When do we have our first patch, etc.? And it's really to be responsible in when you plan this out. And there are people that can help you with this, of course, but it's just that you have to do this job. Otherwise, you will put even more pressure and stress on the whole team as people are developing the game. Even if they're not even connected to the go-to-market plan, at some point they will be, whether they like it or not.
Exactly. Oh yeah, and so for obviously for pre-launch up to post-launch, along the way, it's ready to.
Yeah, we can talk a little bit about that as well. Another thing that we see a lot is that people might be good at doing this. They might be creating their plans and making sure that the social medias are warm and Discord is happening and all that. And then the game is launched, and then not much is happening. And again, it is as important to plan post-launch as it is to plan pre-launch. They are equally, if not even more important, to do post-launch. Same with when you spend your marketing budget. It's not to spend it until launch. It's also post-launch that you need to cover for that. And that varies depending on what type of game, if it is a live service game or if it is, single player, whatever. But the likelihood that you will succeed to launch, considering that you have like 13,000 or is it 14,000 games per year on Steam now? I mean,
16th.
The success rate is low, right?
Yeah.
So the point is that you need to have a road ahead so that you can kind of retry and reshape the message. Maybe you need to put other colors in your art to attract people. The banners might need to change. Maybe there is a call out that needs to change. You need to have the ability to do all this testing to find the right spot for you that works. Because a lot of people won't even see it, and those who do might not connect with it, but maybe they will connect if they see it with another type of creative or another type of messaging.
Often the early access can give you this flexibility to nail down the right formula in terms of creatives and messaging sometimes.
Yeah.
But it's also important to understand that nowadays all companies in entertainment compete against time, bandwidths of players, users, which means that also there is one consideration when it comes to discoverability. Do I want to dedicate my time, tens of hours, couple of hours, hundreds of hours to a game? And to take this decision, I need to understand, is there a core loop and is there also a post-launch support for this game? Or will they release it like this and not fix it? Or do they have long-term plans to bring new content, expand the experience, etc.? And that's also an important factor for core audience, if they are core to your audience. Understanding that if you have not necessarily 10 years commitment on a game, but some kind of mid-term or long-term commitment to a game, it's also an important factor to also sometimes convince players to, okay, I'm gonna pay and invest my time into this game. And that's why giving like visibility on, yeah, we're gonna support the game, there are content coming, etc. That also marketing and communication aspects to you to leverage. So then, I mean, obviously, when you have your plan, etc., I know that sometimes you are between like, I'm not responsible for communication, I'm looking for a publisher, should I wait, etc. But the reality is the new normal, actually now, to get a publisher is you need KPIs to convince them. You need a vertical slice, you need KPIs, etc. Otherwise, it can be very difficult, unless you have like the magic recipe for a new game. So that's why don't wait too much. I tend to say that it requires at least 12 months of steady communication to grow your wish lists at a decent path. Otherwise, if you do it too short, you have to overspend to be visible, etc. So discoverability becomes a nightmare. Build and communicate with your audience. That's the steady communication goes like this. It's having like a variety of social channels from Reddit to TikTok, YouTube Shorts, X, etc. So that's the combination of those channels.
Now that also means that making time in your timeline to be able to talk to the community, to be able to record content from developing the game, not necessarily the usual traditional dev diaries per se, but more on making sure that there is time to talk, there is time to create assets, there is time to share the progress with your community early on. Again, another one that can be very taxing on game development unless it's planned ahead. That at this point in time we will need this here, we will need to get some people in and do some talking, and maybe there are some screen dumps. I can't believe how hard it is to make screen dumps, but it is. It is really tough to make really nice, high-quality screen dumps even for something like Steam Store. It takes time, and you need to prepare for that amount of time.
Yeah, and then it comes to the execution. If you have a nice plan, as Andre said, if the execution is poorly done, then it can screw everything. That's why the consistency is really important from the very beginning up to launch, even in marketing. So for us, the discovery pistons, that what really contributes to an efficient way of marketing, of communicating, etc. That's what we call the integrated marketing communication, which stands on a few pillars, which are your own channels, the own media, the own channels, is your website, your Steam page, the social channels you handle, your Discord, everything. So everything that you own and control. That's important. That's the very first. But that's not the only one. You have to combine it with the earned media and creators. Earned media stands for free visibility you get from press, from content creators that genuinely engage with your game and wants to talk about it. That's earned media. You don't pay for this coverage, but it's very important. So press and content creators, to that regard, are critical. So do not underestimate PR at all. Then you have the paid media and paid influencers programs, which are also important. But altogether, those three pillars are the most important ones. If you miss one of those, you will probably miss a lot of opportunities because they are amplifying. So the paid media will amplifying the earned media visibility, which will also drive audience to your website, to your Steam page, driving wish lists. And if you get this spike at the beginning and can sustain it over time, those three pistons are super efficient all together. Then you can also, as you mentioned, also host some virtual or physical events. Physical events can be maybe not the biggest priority, but sometimes it's also a good way to signal that you are an important game, or even if you're an indie game, that's fine. It's always good to meet but virtual, obviously with live stream, etc., that's a good opportunity to talk to your audience and be very relevant.
Yeah, that's the point as well. So when we talk about these four things, many of you here will probably be like, yeah, I've seen that, or yeah, well, okay, what does that mean for me? The point here is that each and every point of this, we could probably get into it for hours, because these things are changing constantly. So something that worked 2 years ago might not work today. And for us, for example, we see a lot when we do influencer plans that there is a big difference between being a content creator and being an influencer. And I think that there has been problems with this, because influencer is actually what we want. We want people to influence other people to download, to play the game, to try it. Those are the true influencers. Content creators are people creating content around your game, and that's nice and all, but it might not actually do a thing for your game. It will do a thing for them because they get more followers, maybe people like their content, but it might necessarily, and usually it doesn't, translate to downloads for you. And if you have paid people who are content creators, then you're not necessarily going to see the results that you were hoping for. Another point is also curating. Curation is very, very important here as well. So you need to align with people, especially if it is external people that need to understand your project and kind of need to prove to you that they know how to talk to the right people. They know how to target the right channels with the right messages in media. Because if you do that job too lightly, you will spend a lot of money on people saying, yeah, we'll take your game and we'll make it great and everybody will play it and yeah. Or PR plans where somebody says, our press release, it's going to be seen by 800 people. 800 million impressions, sorry. Million, I forgot the million there. Point being is that the more of the hard work that you do and ask others to do by just asking simple questions like, what's the engagement with this game type? I'm making this kind of game. What's the engagement here from the audience of these guys that are going to be paid to showcase this game, for example? And that will really give you true answers on what they will actually be able to do for you and what that is worth to you to pay them to do that.
Yeah, and also when it comes to content creators, it's usually like a proof that your game is popular. So if people are genuinely and freely creating content for you, it will also feed new audiences along the way. That's complementary. But yeah, when it comes to gaining discoverability aspects, paid influencers are obviously critical. It should be considered as advertisement, but also regular advertisement, like pushing, spending a bit of budget on pushing your trailer, making sure that it's in the radar of the players. It's very important because it will help you. Same with PR. It helps you in terms of SEO, and discoverability goes from various technical marketing aspects. Those are still important, even if they're not so obvious or like the biggest ones. But on a long term, it really lays down the foundation of your success.
Yeah.
So, maybe you want to talk about the publishing or self-publishing formulas? Then you're supposed to figure out, no matter if you go with a publisher or self-publish, you need to figure out the role that are in it, the people that will actually operate and execute the strategy, the marketing strategy for you. You can figure out the budget you have. So according to this, you can should maximize it. You have a proper roadmap for your development release, and you make sure that marketing stick to it and help you to succeed also on that regards. You have a good trade strategy. You have potentially, like now, the time to look at porting for console version potentially. And then later on, you have your final go-to-market plan or go-to-market strategy. is a living document, living material. So you may end up in having to tweak and improve before having the final one that will actually inform, because the go-to-market plan is not just for your team, it's also for the people, marketing people that will work on your game, to better understanding without spending hours and hours and hours on that. If they have a solid go-to-market plan, they understand very quickly what they are supposed to do.
So I think to summarize that, it's also understanding, again, it's back to your needs of why do you need a publisher? Or would you be able to carry this game by yourself? And in that case, how do you solve that with the amount of people that you need to publish your game? And this is why we are talking about this timeline, talking about, start thinking about all these things early on. Because if you're going to ask an investor to invest in your game, if you're going to a publisher, all of these things can be answered fairly early on here. And the clearer you are with that, saying that, well, we want to own our community, but we want you guys to kind of release the game for us and put it on Steam and all that stuff. By the way, which channels are you strong in, and what would you invest for us in terms of marketing budget? So you can kind of own that conversation. You can know what you want if you do all this research early on, and if you connect the thoughts of marketing, the way you see this game being played by players, and think about how the player discovers the game. For example, again, PR budget doesn't have to mean that you have to do XXXX press releases. It can be that you know that there are 5 medias in the world that you love a lot and that all your friends are looking at and playing and, reading or watching. So try and make a deal with those, or try to target those only, and that will be a much, much stronger plan to work on. Same with publishing as well. There are certain, you can really kind of divide it up here, that we want to own this, we want to do that, we feel that we're strong in this, or we want to develop our company based on that. The rest can then be negotiated. So you have the power to really work on a deal that will fit you and this timeline well, so that you can keep time and keep track of all this. So with that, I think that's it. We have, there is still a little bit of time for Q&A.
Yeah, if you have questions, we are happy to answer those. So to give you a sense of what we do, I mean, we've been in this industry with publishers for many years. Now we are in consultancy because we can bring our help and knowledge on those items. I'm working with not a short company. You're running Project 369, and we work with a variety of studios and publishers, so we can also help you to either potentially get the right partners or give you the right support in terms of knowledge and those things. So do you have maybe any questions? We can take a few if you want.
Hello. So I actually work in information and library science, technically preservation, but that means that I have actually spent a lot of time on discoverability and search engine, like designing it to help discoverability and bringing the correct things that users are looking for forward. And every single time I attend one of these and talk about discoverability, I always end up wondering if there's any move to try and pressure the platform holders to make discoverability better on their end, because that seems like the more optimal place to change things.
Yes, I think platform holders in general, I mean, when we think about publishing, we also know that there are a lot of dinosaur publishers out there. So there's a lot of old ways of doing things, and some of those actually still work. Like, for example, email marketing, which you would think that, well, that's really old. Nobody reads emails anymore. But yeah, they do. Email marketing is incredibly effective still. And that's something that's usually pretty overlooked. But then you have the point with this, and the point what we are trying to make here, is that defining and designing your way of communicating with the players will usually be stronger. Because as soon as you have them in your community, you can always talk to them again, and you don't have to pay to talk to people at that point in time. And that's why it's so important to be able to build that community early on, because they are kind of investors as well. And if they believe in you, they will stay with you. And then it's more about like a Kickstarter project or whatnot. It's just, here's our progress. And thanks for investing your time and hopefully money in us as well. So I think that with first party, for example, or platform holders, I mean, you won't be able to kind of change how they work. So it's more of adapting to how they work and plan that way of discoverability in your plan. But you need to be a responsible owner of how you execute that in your channels. If that answers your question.
No, but to be honest, I mean, there is no one magical thing to do. There is a combination of things to do and execute in a well-timed manner. If there was just one thing that would push a button and it works, we probably won't be on this stage to talk about it. It's really combining this expertise. It's just when you're building your game, you have a variety of experts helping you to craft your game, code, art, etc. Marketing is similar, so that's why we talk about those four pistons in marketing. Is really combine those principles together to find the right recipe. Question?
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah? Okay, cool. So for Discord, for example, making a single-player game, do you have any tips on like the steps to get a following on Discord? And is it even necessary early on in project, or is it further on that you need that?
I can talk about it, but if you have...
Yeah, I can just say that although Discord is very preferred by many people, it's really not a great place to kind of only rely on all the communication, because people can leave Discord and you can't really retarget them at that point. There's no way of finding them again unless perhaps you might pay for an ad that they see again. So even though Discord is great for many things, building a community and kind of retaining messages in it is actually not the best way.
It's part of the equation, but it depends. If you have a Discord just for the sake of having a Discord, if there is no one that will animate the community, engage with the players, update them, asking them questions, it can be a very great way to actually survey and understand how people feel about your game at the early stages. Even if it's a small portion of dozens of people or hundreds of people, that's also can be very useful. So you can also sometimes benchmark and test your ideas by asking questions, and some studios are actually running playtests so they can gather feedbacks from that. So in that regard, that can be helpful, but you should not rely only on Discord. Obviously, Discord is critical when you have a multiplayer game with online features. For solo game, that's mostly for getting feedbacks. If you're running playtests, that can be super helpful. And those guys, if they're really engaged at the early stage, can down the road can become your ambassadors or your moderators, some kind of things. So then you can maybe because even sometimes with Discord, even one community manager can spend a lot of time, full time on Discord. If you want to really invest that when a game is launched. For single player games, it's not often the case, but it has to be living, some updates, etc. Otherwise, people will go on your Discord. It's a dead place. And they don't trust you, so that's also...
Yeah, and in terms of discoverability, it's, if you're tagging somebody or sharing something, like if you do on X or another platform, you can't really... It just doesn't work that way on Discord. It's not designed to work that way. So we would say that use Discord for your absolute core community that wants to help fix your game or have ideas for improving the game, etc., etc. But always think about the wider audience with social media, because it still matters. That doesn't mean that you have to be on every single social media platform. You might just want to showcase that you exist, fine, but you will be able to with research, and that's also stuff we can help with. And it's just understanding which channel is your channel,
exactly,
or channels, and then you operate on those. Marketing will always help you improve your message, but it cannot fix a broken message. So if you're strong with your product, if you have a strong message, just finding where that message works best is more important than just to be everywhere all at once.
Yeah, and it's about talking to the audience where they are. For discoverability, it's really about that. Because when they are engaged within your ecosystem on Discord, that's fine, but it's about discoverability, growing that and nurturing people. So it's about going to the right channel. So for instance, do you know what are the top 3 sources of wish lists on Steam? Where does it come from? Any idea? But first, Steam itself, because all the visibility you can get if you build a solid Steam page first, all the spots, etc., and the tags are super, super important. The visual, everything the time you effort you put on Steam will really help you to drive traffic organically first. The second channel, that also includes festivals. You have to join festivals to make sure that you have maybe an opportunity to have more visibility, traffic, etc. So that's over time, spend as much time as you can to join those festivals, sign up for those. Sometimes they will refuse you because you're not in the theme or whatever. But the second is Reddit, and the third is TikTok, in terms of wish lists. Over the recent years, the last 2 years, that have been for many indie studios the main channels of organic growth. But when it comes to advertisement, if you want to be very efficient, then it's a combination on spending money on YouTube, on Meta, on Reddit with advertisements. If it's well structured, the combo is super powerful to generate views and wish lists. And then you have KPIs, you have a case study. Then you can also, when you go back to a publisher, like, raise the numbers, raise the traction. And if something doesn't happen after that, it means that maybe your game doesn't speak to an audience. So, but that's why those numbers and those efforts at the early stages of communication can be super impactful. And then you have this curve where you have a lot of speed and you can keep on track up until launch. Otherwise, you see a flat from the very beginning and doesn't make an significant impact at a release. Then you might struggle in the terms of discoverability.
And I just want to add a final point from our talks yesterday, where I got a lot of feedback on that once we were done. But that is also one way that is so key for discoverability is to have a very good onboarding, which can be a very good tutorial or just a very, very good, proper design first 5 minutes or first 10 minutes of the game. Because that's usually all you get from somebody who tries it the first time. And that will also greatly help on discoverability. Because not only is it for content creators, influencers, all that, you can use it for so many ways. You can onboard investors, you can onboard a publisher. So designing that early on as well doesn't have to be a separate tutorial, but just making sure that your first 5 minutes of the game is just absolutely amazing. That will tremendously help on the go-to-market plan and other things as well. And also, again, with social channels, getting followers and all that.
The direct impacts on discoverability is simple. If your bonding is not good enough, you will have people dropping bad reviews about your game, like, I didn't understand, it was not really fun, they only spend maybe 30 minutes, an hour or two dropping. And if you have bad reviews, that will impact your discoverability as well. So that's why the onboarding is also very critical, because it has a long-term impact on your sales. So that's an important part as well. I think we are done for today in terms of timing. If I look at the guys, do we have one more question, or are we done? Are we done? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.